Welcome into the Charter Podcast presented by St. Xavier University. My name is Ruthie Polinsky, and we are bringing you this episode after a dominant Bears win across the pond in London, taking down the Jacksonville Jaguars. They enter their bye week 4-2. 4 wins on the season, that is, and 2 losses for those of us who needed some clarification. It's a big deal, I think, for a lot of us to see the Bears go into the bye week with this record, and we're going to get into all of it. But this is a bye week edition of this podcast. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to give out some bye week awards just through the first 6 games of the season, talk about who's really stood out to us, etc. But there's some big news today that we want to get to. Obviously, Davante Adams, the big trade arguably of the regular season so far. So we're going to talk about that as well. But first, we welcome in Clay Harbor of the Big Pro Football Show and all the other things that he does. 9 years in the NFL. Clay Harbor, thanks for joining us again on this edition. How you doing?
I'm great. And how are you guys?
We're doing great. Happy to be with you again on the Charter Podcast. Clay, let's start. I just want to get your thoughts on the win. I think that's probably the biggest thing we should start with. Also, hey, Alex Shapiro, by the way, you're also on this episode.
How you doing? That's okay. I'm just lurking,
No, you're here and you're great and we love having you.
Yeah, I'm ready for Clay's reaction. I'm ready for your reaction.
Because Alex, I know you did the recap episode on Sunday. So we got your thoughts. You obviously feel free to chime in.
If you want my thoughts and you've missed it, there's a 45-minute episode from Sunday that you can check out.
Sorry to bury the lead there. But Clay, let's start with you. Your thoughts on the win.
Thought it was a really exciting win. I mean, I know what you're saying here is some of the people, we've all been hearing it. Oh, they beat the Jaguars. The Jaguars are the worst pass defense, one of the worst teams in the league, 1 win all season. Same thing you're hearing about the Panthers, 1 win all season. This is in college. You're not picking your schedule. You don't get to pay Wesleyan Central Division II, whoever, to come in and play and beat their brains out. This is still the National Football League, and you are playing against NFL players. And I know we know Bears teams in the past that would have came in on Sunday and lost to a team they should have beat. That's been a thing. They would lose games they're supposed to win. And this team handled business. 3 wins in a row, not the biggest wins in the league, best teams in the league, but you handled your business 3 times in a row. And in past years, you see bad teams lose to teams they should beat. So the Bears are showing growth there in that situation. And then the way they won. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Sirianni and beating the Cleveland Browns by 1 score, chirping the crowd after he beat the worst team in the league, in my opinion, with Deshaun Watson over there in Cleveland. They didn't beat this team by 1 score. They didn't beat the Jaguars by 1 score. This game wasn't even close. I mean, obviously you had a slow start with 2 3-and-outs and 7 yards in the first quarter. Everybody's hearing these stats, but they came on strong. The offense looks great. The defense forced the turnovers like they do. The bend but don't break defense has shut down Tank Bigsby. We're all worried about the run game. So I am very happy with the game, the way they won, and obviously how the most important players played. Obviously, we're talking about Caleb and some of the other guys too, but mostly Caleb.
Yeah, I think to your point, Clay, your schedule's your schedule, right? Like you play who you play, and the Bears are playing some teams that are turning out to be not very good, but they're not looking like a bad team playing a bad team. They look like a good team playing a bad team, and they're doing what good teams should do to bad teams. And I think that's really what's been most exciting and most impressive to me is that they're not taking their foot off the gas. They're not, this is an opportunity right now for this young team with a rookie quarterback to gain some confidence, find an identity before you get into divisional play. And I think to see this team have the success that they're having really in all 3 phases is just part of this process and part of a situation that really just is pretty ideal for Caleb Williams. I'm just really excited to see him take that next leap. I'm excited to see him taking that voice. I'm really excited to see Shane Waldron, adapting and figuring out his personnel and being able to find things that work well for his players. I think in years past, we've looked at play calling and offensive coordinating and said, why are we not catering to our skill sets, right? Like, why is there not an ability to see what we're good at and change what we're doing? And I think Shane Waldron's really been adaptable, and he's taken criticism and he's handled it with really everything you could ask for. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot to be excited about. And I think if, I'm the Chicago Bears, I wish this was not the bye week. I think obviously when you look at the injuries and some of the things, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like this time is great, right? To heal up, and you want to get Jaquan Brisker back. You want to get Kyler Gordon back. You want to get Tyreek Stevenson healthy. And so this week off is great for that. But there's so much momentum right now for this football team that it's almost like, dang, wish they didn't have this week off.
Yeah, I agree, but that bye week is big, and now they changed the rules and stuff. You get that week off, and back in the day, sometimes some coaches would treat that like training camp. But to comment on a few things you said, I think this schedule is perfect for a young team. Like I was when I saw the schedule, I go, this is perfect. You want that. You don't want the division game. People are like, oh, why are all the division games at the end? You need Caleb to grow during the season to get used, and it's worked perfectly. Now he's got confidence coming into a lot of harder games. I think the Commanders are a really solid team, 4-2. I mean, they're on top of the NFC East right now, and then you got right after that you got the Patriots, which I think is another winnable game. Realistically, you could be 6-2 heading into that tough stretch with all the division games, with the 49ers and the Seahawks sandwiched in there, which is obviously, I think, per PFF, the hardest strength of schedule left in the NFL. But also, something you said there, Shane Waldron, Ruthie, as a player, just having a coordinator that listens to you and knows how to adapt and adjust is huge. He's putting you in the right spots to succeed, and that's important. If you have Mercedes Lewis out there playing in the slot, he's not going to be good. No, Mercedes Lewis is the inline blocker. If you got, if you're putting DeAndre Swift is a good example. Because now you're using him more in the outside zone stuff. You're using him more in the pass game. They're doing some downhill stuff and even power. It's A-gap track in the power, but it can hit B, C, D. So they're using Swift a lot better, and you've seen him become such a weapon. And then obviously you see what they're doing with Keenan and DJ and Rome, and they're just utilizing all these different aspects of their offense, and they're interchangeable. Like, you look at the amount of snaps played in slot versus outside for all these receivers. He's moving these guys around a lot. These defenses don't know what's happening. I was watching those plays yesterday, Alex, or on Sunday, excuse me. I'm like, am I watching Andy Reid? Is this Shanahan? Like McVay? You got the pump fake left, the pump fake right, the shot down the middle. I mean, you got some of these plays that are just they're so creative. It's like the Andy Reid creativity tree, what you've seen with the Chiefs. And Shane Waldron, the hat's off to him. He started slow. I mean, obviously we weren't happy to be at the first couple games, but the progress has been huge, and that's what you want to see. If you're a player in that locker room, you're starting to build trust. He's going to put us in the right positions, and that builds confidence with everybody.
I'll take it a step further. I mean, we're seeing Shane Waldron now be multiple in ways that we didn't see in the past. Look at what the Bears have done with Doug Kramer as the fullback. They have this look. Doug Kramer is a fullback, and we're just going to run on top of him and pound the ball into the end zone. And then that's on tape. Everybody sees it. Now we have Doug Kramer as a fullback, and we're going to run on the opposite side. So you're looking this way, we got it the other way. How about we've got Doug Kramer as a fullback, and now we're actually throwing off of it. So this is how the Bears now become multiple, and it keeps defenses on their toes. Oh, yeah, you see this look, you think you know what's coming? Well, guess what? We got something else. And then as they continue to build, it just gets harder and harder and harder to defend because defenses don't know what to expect. And the other thing about going back to the schedule and how it's kind of perfect for the Bears, I agree with you, Clay. One thing that Matt Eberflus's staffs have been really, really good at over his tenure is making adjustments and self-scouting during the time off. So now that the bye week's coming up, I'm sure that they're going to cook something up. They're going to look in the mirror and say, here's what we're doing that's working. Here's what we're doing that's not working. And how can we iterate off of that? So you get an opportunity to do that now at 4-2. And then they're going to have another opportunity to do that down the road after the Thanksgiving game. They have that mini bye. And we know that the Bears also use those mini buys to check in, self-scout, and iterate. So the fact that the Bears have 2 opportunities to do that kind of in thirds of the season almost, it really does seem like it plays out well when you look at the season as a whole from a big picture view.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus had a really great point, which I hadn't really thought of it this way, but they have these first 6 games bye week. Then they have another 6 games, and I believe it's exactly 6 before that Thursday night game, so they get a little mini bye. So it kind of breaks your season up into thirds, and I don't really know if you could ask for much more from what we're seeing from the Chicago Bears right now with a rookie quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, and just the way that they're playing right now. So can we just take a moment, because it was this way yesterday. I think a lot of the conversation, as it should be, has been centered around this offense and Caleb Williams' development and Shane Waldron and all the things, right? Deservedly so. Come on, defense. I mean, holy smokes. Like, just through these first 6 weeks, this team is playing, they said all offseason, and it's really dangerous, I think, to characterize yourself. We want to be a top 5 defense. We want to be a top 5 defense. We heard it from every player, right? They are. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for manifesting that. And the way that they're playing right now, when 3 of their best players on defense in the secondary are not in the game, and the way that that room has stepped up, and the guys that are in that, especially in the DB room, right? Like, that's just a really impressive feat to be able to come up and be calling names during the game. Guys like Elijah Hicks, Josh Blackwell making plays in this game. Like, that's what you want to see from a defense. And the Flucinator, I mean, he deserves all the credit for the defense that he's dialed up and putting personnel in positions to be successful.
Yeah, and it's like Ryan Poles said early in the year. He said, like training camp, he said, it's going to be a hard team to make. And that's what you're seeing, is you're seeing guys that – and you look at Jalen Jones, Elijah Hicks, Josh Blackwell. I mean, these guys have had time. They've played before. They're experienced players. They're not rookies that are coming in here and never seen a NFL game before with the wide eyes. They're looking around all crazy, man. They haven't played. No, these guys have played before. They've played against I was listening to Jalen Johnson on The Score. He's like, we played against Aaron Rodgers with these guys. I'm looking at Jalen across. We've played against Aaron Rodgers. Like, these guys were confident in each other, and everybody else was panicking. You saw the betting lines. You saw everything else when Brisker's out, Gordon's out. These guys were confident in everybody they had come in there, and you saw that. And like you said, Matt Eberflus, what that also shows me and tells me is Matt Eberflus. This scheme is very good. When you can put multiple players in and just substitute these guys, the guy goes down and not lose a step. And Trevor Lawrence and Jags' offense is decent. They're not. Their defense was awful. Their offense wasn't terrible. Their offense had a huge game the week before. What that tells me is that the scheme is very good, and he's really good about adjusting to what players are in. And Kyler Gordon, man, let's take a second to talk about him, Alex. I know you're a Kyler Gordon guy, but the first play of the game, you're going to blitz. That had to be something. It had to be something that they saw in a scheme, and they saw certain personnel grouping, and they said, okay, when they line up in this personnel grouping, like offset back or strong side, to the boundary, strong side to the boundary or something, we're going to blitz you. Or it's just something Kyler Gordon saw on film because he's a veteran player, smart guy. He says, okay, they run that, like they run the ball 75% of the time. But he has just gotten so before he went out, wrote him down on big time plays 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, the guy's just playing some really good football. And you see now that's how valuable that slot position has become, because there's no more two big tight ends or tight ends and fullbacks now. That's a starter. Your slot cornerback is a starter, and it's just as important as the outside corners. Honestly, it might be, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it's just as important, because that's one of the hardest positions to play in the league, is that slot corner, and Kyler Gordon does that so well.
All right, let's get into this Davante Adams news real quick, because I think it's worth discussing. After watching the Jets on Monday Night Football, What does this mean for this team?
I mean, why don't you go for it, Alex? Sorry.
No, you're all right. I think Davante Adams helps any team in the NFL, and the Jets, who are trying to figure it out on offense. I think what Todd Downing did as a play caller gave that offense instant life, right? We know the Jets defense is going to be solid. They're going to be good, and they played well against a very good Bills offense. And I know they were out James Cook, but their backups came in and looked just fine, just kind of like we were talking about on the Bears defense. So having Davante Adams next to Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, we know he's got the great connection with Aaron Rodgers already. Now you're talking about a top three that is really good. And if that offense can continue to pick it up, continue to build off the improvements they made on Monday night, and I know it got really ugly towards the end with all the flags, but there were obviously signs of life in that Jets offense that we just haven't seen. Now you're talking about, okay, are they going to be able to make good on that preseason hype as a Super Bowl contender? And are they going to be a Super Bowl contender next week? Probably not, but there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time for these guys to figure it out. And we know that Davante Adams already has that familiarity, just like Allen Lazard did. And Aaron Rodgers is probably the happiest dude in the world in the NFL right now.
He's up there, man.
I don't know if Aaron's ever happy.
Yeah. The Bear fans are right up there too after that big win in Jacksonville. But I mean, we might as well just bring back Randall Cobb and David Bakhtiari too, and maybe Jordy Nelson. I mean, let's just make this the old Packer team. Bring back all of Aaron Rodgers' old buddies. So I mean, that's interesting that he's getting Davante Adams back. But I think at this point, Joe Douglas, not Joe Douglas. Who's the GM for the Jets? I'm blanking on his name, but at this point, you got to go all in. This is what going all in.
Douglas. Joe Douglas.
Joe Douglas. Sorry, Joe Douglas. Is that Joe Douglas? Yeah. So Joe Douglas, at this point, you got to go all in. If you don't win this year, you're going to find yourself a new job somewhere. Okay, you know what you got to do, and they don't have to give up much. And I think watching Mike Williams yesterday, and you heard Aaron Rodgers' press conference, basically blaming the interception at the end of the game on Mike Williams. Mike Williams had a couple of drops. He's not happy with Mike Williams. Mike Williams might need to find himself a new team too, because obviously Allen Lazard has that history with Aaron. Davante Adams has the history with Aaron. Garrett Wilson is getting the reps before you. So Mike Williams is basically going to be number 4 receiver here. So it's tough for him, but I like the move. At this point, why not? Aaron Rodgers has a couple of years left at most. I'm thinking if he doesn't win this year, he might be gone. Let's go all in here. Let's see if Davante, and we're not paid. It's some money, but to this owner, money isn't an issue. Okay. So I love the move. I mean, there's no reason not to try it, in my opinion. What's the worst that could happen? You continue down the path you're on, and you lose, and you get fired anyway. Hey, we took a swing and miss on what could have been one of the best receivers in the NFL.
Davante Adams is going from one dysfunctional team to another, and I think it's a mess. So those are my thoughts.
What's the problem? What don't you like about this move, Ruthie? He's had history with Aaron Rodgers. He had a lot of success with Aaron Rodgers.
Listen. I'm. It's not that I don't like the move. I think it was inevitable, to be honest. I just don't know what it really does for the Jets. I just don't see them being a significantly better football team, more disciplined, better coached. I just don't see this happening. And I was just watching the game last night, and I just felt like Aaron Rodgers.
Did they win last night with Davante Adams? That close? Did they win?
Here's the thing that's still
troubling. But maybe not.
The offensive line. The offensive line is what still troubles me. And this is something that the Jets tried to figure out. They bring in Tyron Smith from the Cowboys.
Not looking good.
Tyron who is Smith right. He's supposed to be a stud, and he's not looking good.
That holding call, that called back that rushing touchdown. And I'm with Aaron Rodgers. You don't want to see all these penalties called, but that's a hold. If it's a hold.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, maybe it should have gone to OTAs. There is no chemistry on that football team. There is no identity. There is no chemistry. I'm watching this and I'm like, have these guys ever played a game together? Is really what it feels like. And I just really am. Of course, you're going to have a connection with Davante Adams, right? Like that's going to help, I think. But there is so much wrong with that team that I don't see this being like, oh yeah, Jets to the Super Bowl, here we go. Like there's nothing that says that to me.
If the offense can figure it out, and why not take a swing, even if it is a swing and a miss, of helping this offense out, because the defense really is solid, and they've done a good job. So that's what I like it. But I understand what you're saying, and Alex, to your point, offensive line. Tyron Smith supposed to be a big time player, and he has not turned out to be what they thought he was.
I mean, they're 2-4, and their schedule's not like easy. I mean, you play at Pittsburgh, arguably the best defense in the NFL.
Russell
at
Wilson
New England.
started.
Say it again.
Russell Wilson got named the starter.
There we go. I know.
Yeah,
we should get into that too. Yeah. At New England, obviously, whatever. Against Houston, at Arizona, home against Indianapolis, home against Seattle, at Miami, probably with Tua, in December. Yeah. So I just, there are a lot of things here that it doesn't tell me that like, ooh, yay, Jets to the playoffs. Like the Bills are still the Bills. And like, they're not they're not mom and pops, they're not the Bills we've necessarily seen in years past, but they're still the Bills and they're going to win a lot of games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. That's all. I'm not like, yay. If I'm a Jets fan, I'm not like, woohoo, all our problems are solved, like that's just not how I feel.
But at least
today.
take a risk though. I like them doing something, because Joe Douglas and Aaron Rodgers realize, our runway here, they're starting to look and they see there ain't much runway left. All right, let's take a shot and see if we can get something before we run out of this runway right here. So let's do it. Like, big move. You didn't have to give up too much. So
I do wonder if, you rattled off some of those teams. I wonder if the state of the union in the AFC does play kind of a role in this. Like the Dolphins, yes, Tua is expected to come back, but they're 2-3. They don't look like themselves. You just said, right, the Bills are 4-2. But they also, they're going to win their games. They're probably going to win that division. They don't look like the dominant Bills. The Steelers, again, 4-2, but do they look like a dominant 4-2? They're making a quarterback change. The Bengals don't look like the Bengals. And then the Texans are very good, but
the Chiefs
nobody else is coming out of that AFC South. So I wonder if they say, hey, you know what? The rest of the conference isn't so hot. If we even get marginally better with this move, maybe we get in with a wild card and then anything happens in the postseason. Yeah,
that's an interesting point. I'll sit with that one. Okay, Alex. Okay, let's get into our superlatives because we're already 23 and a half minutes into this thing or whatever. And we need to get into our bye week awards. Guys, you ready? Drum roll, please. Clay, let's start with you. Your most improved Bears player through 6 weeks.
I'll tell you my most improved Bears player would be Gervon Dexter. I just love what he's brought this year to that interior with that pass rush. 6 sacks in the last 8 games, and he's got 18 pressures so far this season. And I've just seen him improve so much. I think he can still get better in the run game with some of his gap responsibilities and maybe start taking away a gap and a half instead of just a gap. I mean, he's that type of player, but he's done so well this year. I'm very impressed with how he started the season compared to where he was last year, which he would show a flasher there. He's becoming consistent.
Go ahead, Alex.
I'm going to cheat. It's the first award, and I'm already breaking the rules right out the gate. I'm giving most improved player to the entire offensive line. The first 2 weeks, I mean, we were talking about, are the Bears in mega trouble because no matter what, they can't move anybody in the run game. They can't block anybody in the pass game. It's not just one player. It was kind of the entire front five was struggling, but they have really turned it around. There have been some personnel changes. There have been some scheme changes, right? We've seen a lot of that 13 personnel group, a lot more of that lately, having 3 tight ends in there to help. And I just got some numbers. Over the first 3 games of the season, the Bears were averaging 72.6 rushing yards per game. Over the second 3 games of the season, that went up to 134 rushing yards per game, nearly double. The sacks allowed per game, 4.3 over the first 3 weeks, 2.3 over the last 3 weeks. So that's also been cut in half. That offensive line, again, they're reestablishing the line of scrimmage. Now, instead of going backwards in the run game, the protection has looked much better. So I'm giving it to all 5 guys up front.
I love that. I'm also going to cheat because mine is the obvious answer. My most improved player is Caleb Williams. I mean, and I think that's the answer everyone wants, right? Like that's what we wanted. We saw week 1. It was rough out there. It didn't look right. Something wasn't clicking for him yet. The game was moving too fast. He was a little overexcited and missing open receivers. He's settled in. He's found his voice. He's found his weapons, and he's getting better protection. And I think we've just seen it skyrocket. If Caleb Williams plays the way that he played against Jacksonville for the rest of the season, they're going to win a lot of football games. And I think that's through 6 games to see him, we talk about the numbers, right? Like the QBR and the passer rating, like every week, right? Like it's just going up and up and up. And so I think to see your quarterback take those strides and to honestly, and I was thinking about this, guys, obviously the NFC North, the best division in football. If you were to rank the 4 quarterbacks in the division, like that's a hard thing to do. And one of them is a rookie. So after those first 6 weeks, like that is really an exciting trajectory, I want to say, for Caleb Williams and for this offense. And I'm excited to see what happens in the next 6 weeks. Aren't we all? Let's move on to our next award, which is Next Man Up. Who was your best bench player that came in?
We're talking about just last week?
Through the first 6 weeks.
Yeah. I would say my favorite next man up would have to be, I mean, honestly, I feel like we haven't had that many injuries, but I would give it to Matt Pryor.
That was mine too.
Yeah, he's had some ups and downs, but this guy can play basically everywhere on the line. And that kind of versatility is something I really like and appreciate, because I throughout my experience, I knew that was something if you're a backup, you're a guy that's going to this team, you have to be versatile, because you have to be able to plug a lot of different holes if you want to last. So me personally, having that experience, playing fullback for a year, doing some slot stuff, core 4 special teams, like whatever it takes, like, that's not easy. That's hard. You have to become really good at a lot of different things that don't get a lot of shine. You're not getting a lot of awards, but Matt Pryor, it's been impressive the way he stepped in and for Nate Davis, which who knows what his future holds when we get some of these guys back from the short-term IR. But Matt Pryor, you get my reward. Yeah,
and Matt Pryor, right, like there have been a lot of injuries on the offensive line, so it's kind of that Ryan Bates, that Nate Davis, like that, like just the kind of the plug and play. And he was moving from, when Tevin Jenkins would go down, he'd go from right guard to left guard or left guard to right guard, and he was bopping all over the place. So it's really impressive to just tag team off of you, Clay. And sorry to jump you here, Alex, but I'm gonna go, and I guess it's not really. He is a bench player, but I guess in some ways he's kind of become a starter for his position, and it's Doug Kramer. I think to pop in and to basically be a fullback or whatever he is, the mini fridge. I think it's always exciting to see a player kind of find a new role, kind of in a similar way of like, and like creative and to use an offensive lineman in that position, I think is cool. When I covered the Dolphins, a Landon Roberts, a linebacker, would play fullback sometimes, which I love. Oh, yeah.
A Landon could hit.
A Landon has the famous quote when he would play. I think maybe he played fullback in New England too. He came in a sort of a mini fridge situation. I think it happened in New England, and in his post game locker room interview, he goes like, I run through mother bleepers. And he goes, I run through mother bleepers. Doesn't matter where I am. Like, I'm going to run through them. Yeah. And so he's electric. I think he's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Mike Tomlin loves those type of players. So it's not surprising.
Yeah.
All right. I'm making it 2 votes for Matt Pryor, but got to give a shout out to Elijah Hicks for the job he did last week in 1 week. He played really well in relief of Jaquan Brisker, but Matt Pryor, I mean, this is a guy who, as you said, Clay playing multiple positions. In training camp, he was playing tackle as well. So
Yeah.
if there's a needed tackle and the guy, the Bears need him in a super pinch, he could play out there. Just a couple numbers. So Nate Davis was giving up a 7.3 pressure rate per PFF. Matt Pryor, only 4.6%, and Ryan Bates only has played 22 snaps in passing downs. So not really enough to measure Ryan Bates, but just the eye test for me, I think Matt Pryor has been the best right guard for the Bears. And, Matt Eberflus was kind of alluding to it, like, yes, we always have competitions open for all positions, but right now we feel pretty good with the guys we got up front. So It seems like Matt Pryor is going to be the starter until further notice.
He's
all right,
huge.
let's
Massive.
Yeah, he is.
First guy off the bus.
Let's fly through these because we're kind of taking a long time here.
Yeah.
Who's been your biggest surprise, Clay?
Biggest surprise. I mean, I'm going to cheat. Obviously, the biggest surprise is Caleb Williams. I mean, we all wanted him to be this guy that came out, but after the start he's had and to really just flip that switch, I mean, obviously I hope to see it, but that was a surprise, extremely impressive. I would go with Caleb.
I feel bad calling this a surprise, but it was maybe my biggest question mark that was answered. This is where I'm going to say Gervon Dexter. It was, can he take that next step and be the impactful 3-tech that the Bears really need in the interior line? And he absolutely has been. He's been a force. He's been a disruptor. You mentioned it, 5 sacks. That's tied for second among all defensive interior linemen this year. And a 10.2% win rate. That's 23rd. That's a pretty solid win rate for a 3-tech. So Gervon Dexter, good on ya.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to get creative and do something different, but Gervon Dexter, I think it's a surprise, but it's just cool to see the development there. Like, credit to Ryan Poles for identifying the talent, right? But then also credit to that coaching staff, to to Matt Eberflus, to the position coach, to everyone who's, helping him get better. And also, of course, credit to him. He talked a lot this offseason about how he changed his body and he's like really locked in on, being in elite shape to be a really good player. And if he keeps this up, guys, like, this could be an all-pro player. Like, he looks awesome. I'm really excited to see where he takes this the next couple of weeks. Best performance.
I'll kick this off.
Go ahead, Alex.
I imagine Caleb Williams will pop up, so I'm going to zig right now. I'm going to say DeAndre Swift's performance against the Rams in week 4, because I think it really gave the Bears an identity. So here's the numbers. He rushed 16 times for 98 yards and a touchdown. That's a 5.8 yard per carry average. He also caught all 7 of his targets, 7 receptions on 7 targets for 72 yards. And we have seen the Bears now use DeAndre Swift both as that rusher. Clay mentioned it earlier. The outside zone scheme has really worked. He's also looked really well between the tackles, north-south. And in the pass game, it's been huge. And that's taken a lot of pressure off of Caleb Williams. And it's given Shane Waldron and the offense something that they can really lean on. They say, okay, this is the guy we thought we were getting when we signed him to a big deal, right? And it really does, in my opinion, give the Bears offense some sort of identity when they were kind of flailing and trying to figure out what they want to do and what they want to do well. Since that game, he has had 120 and 119 all-purpose yards, and he's had a touchdown in each of those games too. So the Bears just seem to figure something out after that breakthrough performance with DeAndre Swift.
Ruthie, you're up.
Okay, my best performance is really easy for me. It's Cole Kmet in London. And Clay, kudos to you because you really called the Cole Kmet breakout game on our show. But obviously, like, to score that touchdown and then to go long snap, and then to do it twice, to do it all. It's so fun to watch, but it's also just, he's such an easy person to root for, easy player to root for, longtime Bears fan, Chicago guy, to see him be just the ultimate teammate, ultimate player, ultimate everything, and to have a huge game while he does it as also a tight end. Like, it's just, that's my favorite performance.
Yeah, I'll say either this week, Keenan Allen just coming back from the injury and not getting many targets. Some people say he looked fat and slow or whatever you were hearing about Keenan Allen, to shut those people up and to have 2 touchdowns and to catch a big 3rd down, a big 4th down, and just to make those big plays. Or last week when you had DJ coming in, people saying DJ was disgruntled, and for him to have that big over 100 yards, 2 touchdown performance, it always seems like whoever the Bears are really targeting or the odd man out was the week before, the next week comes in and has a big game. So those are my 2 favorite performances.
Okay, top defensive player. We probably all have the same one here.
Yeah, same one. On the count of 3.
1, 2, 3. Jalen Johnson. I mean, he's the best corner in the NFL right now. You could make the argument he has the lowest passer rating allowed of all corners, and he's electric.
Insane stat, by the way. A 20.8%.
Insane stat. And also, like, they're not throwing at him very much. Like, you're afraid of that guy. And that is what you want from your number 1 corner. And I am just like, it's so fun to watch. And it's great to see the recognition.
Yeah, and that's why you've seen Matt Eberflus, in my opinion, get away from a lot of the too high stuff that he runs. And that's because, I mean, he's still running it, but he's done a lot more single high stuff this year. If you start looking at it, Jalen Johnson's taking away that quarter of the field. You ain't throwing over there. I mean, the 75% of the earth is covered by water. The other 25 is covered by Jalen Johnson. So
here's what's also crazy. Last year, he set all these career highs, and it was, the thing was, okay, how does he follow that year up? He's been even better. He's 43.8% completion rate allowed. That's outrageous. He sets a career high with 4 picks last year. He already has 2 this year. So the fact that he is on track to set career highs again,
and
after the contract, exactly. Like, he got his money, like, he got paid, and he's literally playing the best ball of his career. And that's just like players that you root for. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, our top offensive player. 1, 2, 3. Caleb Williams.
Oh, Clay's shaking his head. Clay's shaking.
All right, Clay. Come on.
I'm gonna go with Caleb. You're right. Yeah. DJ Moore is one of my favorite players, but the way Caleb's been playing, we'll go with Caleb.
Right. It's just you want your quarterback to be your top offensive player, right? Like, come on. Yeah. You don't want the wide receiver to be your top offensive player, because the quarterback better be getting him the ball. Like, that's kind of how I see this. And and again, it goes back to my most improved, but just to see the trajectory is very, very exciting. It would be a fun game for us to play in our Friday episode is we could rank our NFC quarterbacks.
Ooh, that's a dangerous game, Ruthie.
It's a dangerous game.
People get passionate about that. When you start ranking, or you do your rookie of the year or something. But Ruthie, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, Williams, is what I love to see. We're seeing from Caleb the last couple of games too, and we're all talking about the passing and everything. The way is he's taking advantage of rushing lanes. If they're playing him man-to-man and their backs are turned, he's seeing that. He's going. And then you're seeing there was a couple designed runs in there. That's something teams are going to have to practice now. Now you're going to have to start limiting your calls on defense, because this guy is showing he's willing to run, and he's taking – he had that – what do you have, like a 30-yard run right there to midfield in last week? And then he had the zone read that he pulled. And I'd love to see him being active. And obviously he's so good in the pocket now, and he's getting really good at feeling the pressure and creating time. But I'm also loving that he is willing to run the football, and that just creates another element.
And to piggyback off that, Clay, like on that 50-yard run or 30-yard run, that got him to about the 50, he slid before he needed to. And I love that. Protect yourself, and to see and to have sort of like the awareness and the ability to know, okay, I've done what I needed to do. I don't need to be a superhero. I want to save myself. Like, I want to protect myself. Like, that's something that I think, you want to see from your rookie quarterback at this phase in his career. Like, that's really smart football.
I'll take it one step further. How about the scramble in the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half? When he realizes, hey, I've got a chance to score. I'm not sliding. I'm going to make a play for the end zone. So again, that situational awareness is pretty advanced. Okay, in a situation where I'm at midfield, I'm not scoring, I'm getting down, I'm saving myself a hit, but whoa, I'm on the 2-yard line. I could get a touchdown. Let me fight for a few extra yards. That's a Josh Allen type ball. That type of advanced awareness that I love. And then, okay, the scrambling and the off schedule, everybody knew that was spectacular. And that's what all the highlight tapes were. But he was really good at USC, in my opinion, at going 1, 2, 3, being in the rhythm of the offense, throwing anticipatory balls. And that was a bit of a question mark because that's harder to do in the NFL, right? And I think that has also just grown so much. I mean, these are things that we haven't seen in a Bears offense for quite some time. The operation on time. I've reached the back of my drop, and I'm throwing the ball right now. I'm seeing a guy NFL open, not wide open, and I'm giving him a shot. The back shoulder throw to Keenan Allen in the end zone. Special throw. A lot of quarterbacks don't throw that ball. And then the anticipation, throwing the ball before a guy has even made his break. The fact that he's doing that already week 6, MVP, offensive MVP for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, well, that just got us into our next question. Who's your MVP?
Alex?
Caleb Williams. Just rewind about 1 minute and listen to everything I just said, and that is why Caleb Williams is the MVP of this.
And again, I go back to what I said about top offensive player. You want your quarterback to be your MVP. It's that simple.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson has played the best, but your most valuable player is Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and you could definitely make the argument that having the defense that they have has been the MVP because it kept them in a lot of those early games. Like you don't win week 1 without your defense, right? Like you don't win. You don't keep it a 1-possession game in Houston without your defense. But I think like there's just your most valuable player needs to be your quarterback. And it is right now for the Chicago Bears. They've been winning games because of Caleb Williams. And that's what you want to be seeing at this point.
Great.
All right, guys, nothing else. Here we go. Let's say goodbye. Thank you so much for listening to the Charter Podcast presented by St. Xavier University. For Alex Shapiro, Clay Harbor, and Ruthie Polinsky, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you later this week.
Whoa!